This is the Hiking Through Life podcast. We've all been gifted a journey called life. Let's see where the journey leads us today. Welcome to the Hiking Through Life podcast, where we talk with people who in some way, shape, or form have been influenced by the outdoors. I'm Andy, the producer of this podcast, and my lovely wife Sarah will be your host. Together, we make up Hiking Through Life.
This podcast is all about bringing all kinds of people who are inspired by the outdoors and sharing their stories.
We hope that by sharing people's stories, it inspires others to get out and live a more meaningful life. Tune in every week for new episodes, or better yet, subscribe to the Hiking Through Life podcast on your favorite podcast provider. If you enjoy this podcast, please share it with others. Also, if you have a story to share, or know of anyone who might be interested in being a guest on this podcast, head on over to hikingthroughlife.net/podcast and get in touch with us.
If you'd like to support Hiking Through Life, you can go to hikingthroughlife.net/shop. We have t-shirts, water bottles, and we recently added stickers to the shop.
Use the code podcast at checkout and receive 10% off your first order. There are other ways you can support this podcast as well. You can check those out at hikingthroughlife.net/support. Also, be sure to sign up for our email list. You can do that by heading over to hikingthroughlife.net. Enter your email address and click subscribe. There's no commitment. You can unsubscribe at any time. As part of our email list, you'll receive our monthly newsletter. We'll also be sending out any promotional codes for Hiking Through Life gear. It's an excellent way to follow Hiking Through Life's journey. Now sit back and enjoy this week's episode.
Welcome to the Hiking Through Life podcast. Today we are joined by Chris Cage. He quit his job in accounting in 2012 and embarked on a 2-year journey of diverse outdoor experiences, from hiking the Appalachian Trail to backpacking Asia to bicycling in New Zealand. He is an entrepreneur who has written a book, How to Hike the AT, and owns Greenbelly Meals, which makes healthy, nutrient-dense backpacking meals. We are here today to hear his story. Welcome to the podcast, Chris.
Hey, Sarah. Thanks so much for having me.
You're welcome. So tell us a little bit about your background and your starting off at your job in financing and quitting all of that. How did that begin?
Yeah, that was, back in 2012. I graduated college in 2010. And so I'd been an accountant for about 2 years. And I'm not going to dog on it, really. It wasn't like it was something I hated or anything like that. I mean, I actually really liked the people around me. I just didn't see myself doing it long term. And I was in Birmingham, Alabama. I just didn't really feel like it was where I was meant to be as an accountant in Birmingham. So I kind of started to plan for a big trip. And I was a Boy Scout. I grew up as doing Boy Scouts, and I'd been exposed to the Appalachian Trail in North Georgia, which, it starts in North Georgia. So I'd done some hikes when I was a kid in North Georgia on the AT, and it was kind of like a childhood dream, to do the whole thing in one go, a big thru hike up the Appalachian Trail. And I was sitting there as an accountant, and I thought, I think now is probably the time to do it. When I had the job, I said, I will probably, if I do the AT, I'd also like to do some other fun travel while I'm on this fun employed, big trip. So I knew that I needed to start saving some money if I was going to be unemployed for that long, potentially 2 years, if not more. So maybe for about a year or so before quitting my accounting job, I started saving up money and also used that time to nerd out on logistics, gear, all that kind of stuff. Really get kind of caught up to speed from my Boy Scout backpacking days to seeing what kind of gear is out there now and planning this big trip. But the big trip essentially was to go first to spend about three-ish months in Asia and do lots of kind of woofing. Woofing was the thing. Have you ever heard of woofing?
Yeah, where you go and stay on farms.
Yeah. So that was the concept was similar to woofing. I actually used a website called Workaway, which was it's a similar work exchange thing. So you go and volunteer. I think the premise is like you volunteer 4 hours a day, and in exchange for room and board, and no money's exchanged. I heard about Workaway as kind of a more options than just farming. I think woofing's limited to farming, and Workaway is really much broader spectrum of work exchange things you can do. So I did a lot of workawaying in Asia. Like I taught English in Thailand and volunteered in an orphanage in Cambodia. It's random stuff. And then I made my way down to New Zealand and right after Asia. I went down to New Zealand, and I had actually shipped a bicycle from Craigslist and shipped the bicycle there. And I had started on the very northern tip of New Zealand and cycled toward my way to the very southern tip over several months. And while I was doing that, I was also doing some workaway stuff. I was like volunteered at a surf shop and also at a vineyard and just bed and breakfast, all sorts of like random kind of places to work. And then ultimately made my way back to the States and hiked the Appalachian Trail. So that was a long kind of unemployed duration, but it was a good time.
Yeah, that sounds like an amazing time. Just kind of adventuring kind of all over the place, bicycling, a bicycle sent from Craigslist. I mean, that's good that it turned out well, that it was actually a bicycle, because sometimes Craigslist can be a little questionable.
Well, I guess in Craigslist defense, I actually bought it on Craigslist while I was in the States, and then boxed it up and shipped it to New Zealand. So I knew a little bit about it.
So it was like a whole planned thing. You knew you were going to bicycle.
I'd like really nerded out. I don't mean to like undermine that at all. I nerded out big time. Like I think I had my box like ready to go before I even left for Asia. I had my like New Zealand bicycle boxed up, ready to go.
That's awesome. And so my understanding is that while you were out on all these adventures, you were eating backpacking meals, but you felt like they weren't really filling you up, weren't exactly nutrient dense. Is that right?
Yeah, totally. Especially started in New Zealand and then really kind of developed more really when I was on the Appalachian Trail, because similar lifestyles in New Zealand and the Appalachian Trail in New Zealand, I was bicycling all day and camping out at night, and generally several days away from resupply points, depending on how remote I was in New Zealand. And similar thing in the Appalachian Trail, instead of bicycling, I was hiking, but I would be hiking all day, and maybe at most maybe like a week away from a resupply or grocery store. So on both of those, I was burning a lot of calories and doing a lot of distance. And also when you're doing that, I mean, as you know, pack weight is really important. So when you're burning a lot of calories and you're traveling long distance, you really need to make sure that the calories you do pack are pretty nutrient dense. So
totally. And things like ramen noodles and M&Ms and potato chips aren't necessarily going to do it. And that's what a lot of thru hikers end up eating.
Totally. So yeah, and on the Appalachian Trail, I remember, like all sorts of, my diet on the Appalachian Trail was looking at the time. It's funny, I really didn't think that much about it. And I knew I wasn't eating the healthiest stuff, but it wasn't like it was like, oh wow, this is so bad. It was more about like, my idea was more like let's get this thing a little more efficient. And looking back, I'm like, gosh, I thought I was eating this such crap. But and more like crap isn't processed, like sugary, like honey buns and that kind of stuff, just to get the calories. But yeah, so I was eating, lots of anything to get calories, and started thinking about a better way to get a fast, high calorie, all natural kind of meal. So yeah, that was really the genesis.
And like, have you always been an entrepreneur at heart? Because you wrote a book about the AT too, and then you went on to create Greenbelly. Is entrepreneur just in your blood?
No, it's not. I don't know. I think my family was in general more business oriented, but I don't know anybody in my family that had started a business or anything. And I certainly hadn't. I think looking back, maybe like I had like maybe tiny little entrepreneurial stints when I was a kid, but I mean, they were obviously really minor things. But looking back, I was kind of, I guess I was doing some things that maybe some of my friends weren't doing. But no, this was definitely my first business. It was more of a lack of having other options that made me want to do it. Because having the accounting background, when I finished up the job, I didn't have that much money. I had a little bit of savings left over from traveling, but I moved in with my parents to save money, and I knew that accounting could be a fallback option. Worst case, I could go back to that, but that definitely was not plan A.
And at this time, it was 2016, right?
So I finished up the AT actually at the very end of 2013. So I was 2014. It's like December, late December. I finished the Appalachian Trail 2013. So early 2014, I was kind of stirring with what am I going to do at my parents' house, and I started thinking about maybe starting a business, and that's kind of where it started going. And I'd say by the end of 2014, I had a Greenbelly meal prototype that I felt decent about, and I started to send some samples out. So I got a first small wave of sales actually in 2014. So that was the beginning of it. I never started a business or anything like that. And the book was written in 2007, maybe 2016, late 2016. So I actually started Greenbelly a little bit prior to that, but yeah. And then since then, I've started other random small things, but Greenbelly has been by far my main focus.
Yeah, I mean, that's so cool that you have other things going on too. I didn't realize that. You're quite the entrepreneur. But about Greenbelly, my understanding too is that you like kind of started it in your mom's kitchen, and you don't really have any background in food science or anything.
Correct. I don't.
So how did that work?
I started off in my mom's kitchen, and the first actual prototype of Greenbelly was like a goo. Like it was going to be like I've been drinking a lot of olive oil and peanut butter and like fatty things on the Appalachian Trail, and I thought about making this really high calorie goo. Maybe like that would be like honey, some kind of oil and peanut butter. And then I started making it, like, this is disgusting. So I started going back to more of a bar concept, but nonetheless, I was really struggling with the food development part. And I just realized this is clearly over my head. So I started trying to figure out how could I go about developing a product that tasted good, was shelf stable, had the macronutrient levels where I wanted them to be. Things started getting really complicated. And then at the end of the day, right, it has to taste good. So I quickly started finding out, like, okay, do I need to contact a chef? Do I need to contact a nutritionist? So who do I need to contact? And I started coming up with food scientist was really where you need to start working. So fortunately, I had a little bit of savings left over. That's really where almost all of it went to starting Greenbelly, was just getting a good product. So I started working with a food scientist on getting this concept of a complete meal bar that would have a lot of calories. So that was critical early on, because that was definitely an area of expertise I was lacking.
And so the idea of it being a bar was the goal at first? Because now it looks like you guys have meals and a whole variety of things, but a bar was the very first.
Definitely. That was the first product. Absolutely. The meals, the two bars in a single pouch that are 650 plus calories. That was the initial product, and it still is definitely our main product.
And that's supposed to be a meal replacement?
Absolutely. Right. So packing in high calories, we started off really trying to do 1/3 of your daily nutrition down the macronutrient label, which we still do, but the regulations are constantly evolving. So it's kind of like trying to hit a moving target on what they consider to be your daily values. So we're kind of like pulling back away from the 1/3 daily nutrition and just going, you know what, we're just going to give you a ton of nutrition down the label. So, but yeah, that was it. Start off with the bars and really try to just pack in a ton of stuff. Because again, like we were talking about earlier, with a lot of the stuff that most of the thru-hikers, myself included, were eating it was all about calories, but those calories a lot of times are coming from simple sugars like the honey bun, So I was thinking about how can we get food that has protein, carbs, sodium, fat, fiber, loads up on a lot of that stuff that you need while you're hiking.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that's one thing that we've struggled with when we're backpacking. Like we'll make like peanut butter wraps, but like those kind of burn through us pretty quickly. And then we'll go and have like a dehydrated meal. But even so, it's finding the balance of filling yourself up out there can be really challenging.
Yeah. And if you're gone for a long period of time, if you're burning 5,000 calories a day for like 3 days, that's not that big of a deal to have that deficit. If you're doing it for, months at a time, that deficit can really add up.
Yeah. When you're out on the AT for 5-6 months at a time. How long did you take to hike the AT?
I took, I think I started in June. I want to say June 13th and ended December 17th. I should know that, but I think that was my date. I did take 2 weeks off in the middle of it. I took 2 weeks off for a family thing, but so yeah, I guess about 6 months, maybe a little under, actually hiking.
Okay. And did you do like ultralight? Because I know you have some YouTube videos as well where you talk about ultralight backpacking. And was that like a big focus of yours when you went out to hike?
Yeah, that seems like a pretty subjective line. What's considered ultralight and what's not. But yeah, I was like I was and still am kind of on the very lightweight, not quite like freakish ultralight. I've never been like the freakish ultralight where I pack like 14 items, but I did a lot of research on my gear, but I still kind of had some luxury items. Like I had a Kindle on the Appalachian Trail.
Oh yeah, that's luxury.
Yeah, right.
But that's got to be nice to read at the end of the day. That's like,
yeah, totally. And I think at that point in time too, I was really wanting to read more, and the Kindle was good for that. And then now, like when I go backpacking, I'm still on the lighter end of backpacking, not maybe on the heavier end of the ultralight. Like I went backpacking this weekend with my niece and nephew, and I brought like a pillow and a pillowcase, and I was like, wow, this is not ultralight, but I don't care,
that's luxurious.
Right?
I never bring a pillow. I just like wrap up a spare sweatshirt or something.
Do you sleep okay?
Yeah, I do. I mean, of course, if I had a pillow, I'd sleep a little better. But when I'm out there, I just kind of talk myself into this is temporary. We'll be all right.
Do you wake up feeling really badly though, like you didn't sleep well?
No, I don't. I bring an air mattress at least.
Yeah, well, air mattress for sure, but like I don't know, maybe it's because I'm 32 now. Maybe I don't remember it being a huge issue when I was like younger, even in my Boy Scout days. But
maybe. I mean, I'm only 2 years behind you.
It's been something more recently where I'm like, dude, I need a pillow. like I'm not like wadding up my hiking clothes is not hacking it anymore or cutting it anymore.
Right. Well, whatever you can do to like save yourself to keep going later on in the years,
Totally. So anyway, I'm not super ultralight, but I tried. I do my best.
Okay. Yeah, it is like a challenge to figure out what gear to bring, and because they're always making new gear, and people are trying to always get the latest and the greatest stuff. And of course, like back when we were kids too, like the gear has changed so much over the years.
Totally, and yeah, I don't know how many nights I've slept in the woods now, but it's a lot, and it's the fact that every time I go, I'm still optimizing and tweaking. I guess that's maybe kind of fun in it.
Yeah, for sure.
You're constantly dialing things in, but yeah, no pack is the same as the previous trip. That's for sure.
Yeah. So tell us about this book. Was writing the book How to Hike the Appalachian Trail, did you think about writing that book when you were out hiking the trail, or was it after the fact?
Good question. I didn't read anything like book-wise prior to hiking that trail. I think it was mostly blogs.
So you just did all internet research because you said you like nerded out on planning.
I did, and that was so when I hiked in 2013. That would have been my research would have been mainly in 2012. So 2012, I'm trying to think. I sound like an old man, but I don't think Instagram was if it was around, it certainly was not prevalent. Like YouTube was not a big thing then. I mean, I think it was kind of there, but I don't think it was certainly didn't have the video inventory it does now. But yeah, so I think blogs were mainly it. And I don't remember if there were books around then or not, but I think it was later. I started doing a lot of content creation for Greenbelly. That was a big marketing channel for us. It was like writing blog content on how to backpack and pieces of gear and stuff like that. And it just seemed kind of like a natural segue. I'd never thought of myself as a good writer. I still don't think of myself as a good writer, but I was like organizing pieces of content to try to make sure they flowed as logically as possible. And I could see that after, writing all of these articles, which ones did well and which ones didn't. I could kind of, I essentially started to improve on my writing, right? And see like what people would read and what they wouldn't. And I kind of started thinking like, well, instead of writing all these little fragments of, how to hike or certain things, maybe I could kind of do a really big blog post and make it a book. So I started thinking about doing that. And then I was kind of nervous. I mean, I wasn't kind of nervous. I was definitely very nervous that my editing would be bad. Nobody'd read it. I have no idea, but I'm so glad I did. It was a really fun thing to do. I cranked it out really fast. I was actually in a coffee shop in Thailand, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to spend the next 4 weeks writing this entire thing, and I don't want anybody to talk to me. So that's really what I did. I just, cranked it out in a coffee shop and got that thing published on Amazon. So
4 weeks. You must have not slept in the entire 4 weeks. I've never heard of anybody writing a book in 4 weeks.
I got to say, I have a few friends that are authors, and I think in other authors' defense on why they take so long, it's usually because they have to do a lot of research and kind of come up with, their hypothesis and all this. It's much deeper. The How to Hike the Appalachian Trail was a brain dump. I was just saying, here's what I did, and here's where I went to the trailhead. Here's the gear I used. Here's why I went southbound versus northbound. It didn't take that much research, which I think it can be a holdup for a lot of people, but it was a brain dump. And to be fair, there was some research, but it wasn't as time consuming as I thought it might be. So yeah, I really just locked down and maybe did 40, maybe 50 hours a week of writing for a month.
And so it sounds like it's a lot about your own experience. So would you put it under the guide, a trail guidebook? Is that the genre you would call it? Or is it more of a memoir about your experience?
Trail guide. So I did feel like there were a lot of memoirs out there. And I really didn't know how much unique insight I might have on that, or maybe not unique insight, but at least interesting insight on that. So I thought there seemed to be a void in a real step-by-step guide. So for the person who is just considering through hiking the Appalachian Trail, but doesn't really know where to start, has all these questions. And I was thinking about all the questions I had before hiking the Appalachian Trail, is there water along the way? Where do you stop for food? And why would you go south versus north? All those kinds of, should you hike alone? Should you go with a friend or whatever? All those kinds of questions. That's really what I set out to answer. Is just really a guide for anybody who's even thinking about doing a thru hike of the Appalachian Trail and getting them step by step on their planning, getting them ready to hit the trail. So much more of a guide than any kind of a memoir. I did sprinkle in little personal experiences, but that was it. It was much more focused about how to do it, and then here's kind of my 2 cents on what I experienced when I did it like that.
All right. And there was a ton of reviews on Amazon, so it seems like it's super successful. Do you think Greenbelly has to do with its success?
That's a good question.
Because there's so many books out there about the AT.
I know. I thought that was another kind of it was a fear I had before writing it. I had seen so many memoirs and stuff about the Appalachian Trail, and I thought, these are a dime a dozen, these kinds of books. So I did think that I had 2 things going for me. One, a unique angle, which is going to be really the step-by-step guide and not the memoir personal experience stuff. And then the other thing was that I had a newsletter. I had Greenbelly's newsletter. It wasn't big at the time, sort of in 2016, but it was definitely we were fairly established. We had a following and a blog that had some website traffic, a newsletter list. So the combination of the two, of kind of having a unique angle and at least a little bit of a platform to kind of leverage that initial launch, I felt like, what the heck, why not? And I think that maybe there's a lot of kind of Kindle marketing that people talk a lot about, optimizing for certain keywords and things like that. But my understanding was if you can kind of, run out of the gate fast, then people will acknowledge that this book was actually a decent book and they're going to be more likely to buy it. So it's if you can get that first wave and that some initial momentum going, then that can help set you on the right path for, future sales, which I think we did a good job, or I did a good job getting that initial momentum going.
Yeah, for sure. Having your newsletter already established, that definitely had to have helped a lot.
Yeah, I think on that first day, and another thing, I remember one thing I did is I had a really good friend of mine who's an author, not in the backpacking space, but he was talking about you should offer it for free for the first week, which I did. I offered it for free, and that was, again, just getting that. I think they had like 10,000 downloads in the first day. And I was like, that was a lot. And I remember it was like, whoa, 10,000 people just downloaded this. So that gave a lot of people the opportunity to have it and get initial reviews rolling in. So I think that we got like maybe, I don't know, 50 reviews in the first like couple days, which really helped. So there's definitely like marketing that can be applied to your book launch. And I think that like that first wave of marketing really helped propel the book forward.
Awesome. And like, is it still, or did you ever do any like tours with the book at all, or you just kind of set it for free and that was all?
No, yeah, I set it for free, but just Amazon won't allow you to just put books for free. I don't even know what, I mean, that was now 3 years ago that I did that, maybe 4 years ago. So I don't know what Amazon is doing now, but they only allow you to offer a book for free for like 7 days or something. So yeah, I think it just still ranks, and people who are searching for guidebooks and maybe word of mouth and still, I don't know, talk about it sometimes on our newsletter. But it still sells. It still sells well for sure.
Awesome. Do you ever do like presentations or anything about hiking the AT at like outdoor events?
No, I'd probably be down though. Yeah, it sounds like fun, but no, I haven't.
Yeah, there's like tons of outdoor events. What's that big outdoor event? I think it's in Colorado, Trail Days maybe?
Well, there's Trail Days in Virginia, and then there's Outdoor Retailer that shifted from Utah to Colorado.
Yeah, that's the one I'm thinking of.
I guess that's it. It's like, for how many people are planning a thru hike? I think it's roughly 2,000 Appalachian Trail thru hikers a year. So I mean, the people who attempt it is going to be. I don't think I'd be curious like what city could actually draw a crowd, right? Because it's so spread out where people are coming from. But I bet maybe some of those big cities you could get a decent turnout.
Yeah, that's true. Guess you would need to nerd out on that research too.
What city has the most potential AT thru hikers?
Yeah. Maybe
know.
one of the cities where the AT starts or ends, but then again, maybe not, because it is people from all over the place. So back to Greenbelly, I mean, what would you say is your number one top selling item at this point?
Oh, definitely bars. I mean, we really only have our bars for sale right now, the meal to go. So we launched a product called Mud Meal. We're actually working on a version 2, which is a powdered meal beverage. So I mean, really the only thing we're selling right now is our bars. So that's definitely been our main squeeze. But I want our Mud Meal we'll launch that early next year. We're still kind of tweaking some things on it. But yeah, that'll be our next product for next year. And it's going to be a version 2, so it won't be a new one. But yeah, I want that thing to do well. I'm excited about it. But our bars are definitely the main one.
And where did the name Greenbelly come from?
I was reading what are those kinds of books called? I don't know what they call it. It's a field guide though on animals. And I was reading, I think I was like hiking around my parents' house in Georgia and I was looking, I think I might've seen like a snake and I was trying to identify it in a book. And there was a red belly snake that I came across. And I remember thinking red belly. And I was around the time I was trying to think of like potential business names. And I was like, oh, red belly, that sounds cool. But Greenbelly would make more sense for food.
But Greenbelly makes more sense for food, like because like green is like means healthy. Is that what?
Exactly. Green
Okay.
means green, healthy. I was wanting to do a natural food product. Green sounded more food friendly.
All right. I mean, it sounds appealing. I like that. That makes sense. And from a trail guide, like very, very relatable for thru hikers who probably are the number one customers for you.
Right. Exactly.
Are they the number one customer?
Hikers, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we're over 80% hikers. We did a survey about, I guess, a year ago and just asked all of our customers what main outdoor sport activity, and I think it was about 80% said hiking. So.
And it seems like hunters, because I know that you were on the Joe Rogan podcast.
I was, yeah. I think Joe Rogan, that was just was such a cool guy. It was funny when I went on the show, I didn't know hardly anything about him. I think like the day before I went on the show, my buddy was like, "Oh yeah, you know that the average listener to his podcast is about 1 million people." I was like, "Oh, okay, all right."
You had no idea.
I had no idea. I was like, "Okay."
Yeah, when we saw that you were on that, we're like, whoa, like he got in with a big, big deal.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, Joe is just a really nice, humble guy, and he was a customer and of Greenbelly, and so it made it easy to talk to him. And anyway, yeah, going on that show, he obviously has a lot of hunters, and yeah, we still have a good chunk of hunters ordering, and I guess there's a lot of overlap between going out on these backcountry hunts that are 10 days, and they have to be more weight conscious because they bring like bows and all sorts of hunting stuff, which I don't know much about hunting. The hunting I only hunted when I was a kid with my dad. We'd like go duck hunting and just sit in a blind. So I haven't hunted in years, and I don't intend to probably ever hunt again in my life. But yeah, they just seem to kind of naturally gravitate towards some of the backpacking market because they're so weight conscious. And of course, backpackers are. So there's a lot of overlap between products there, which you might have seen, like a lot of the sleeping pads and some pieces of gear in the backpacking space seem to be marketed a lot towards hunters. So
yeah, definitely. I mean, it makes sense that hunters need lightweight stuff. So your blog, do you write all of those articles, or it kind of looks like you guys have people write for you?
both. Well, I started doing it all. I mean, literally everything: cooking the bars, packaging the bars, shipping the bars, and then the marketing. Of course, I said, okay, how are we going to get people to our website? And I didn't even think about it that much as a marketing channel to bring traffic. I thought about it as a marketing channel. Anybody who's on our newsletter might be interested in reading about this. So that's really where I started. And I started just kind of randomly talking about things that, I knew and from my, backpacking experience, and thought maybe some of our customers might be interested in. And then it snowballed into a couple of the posts started really getting a lot of traffic. And then I started trying to learn a little bit more about content creation and SEO and really building out a content strategy. So for the first, few years, I was writing everything. And then I was like, wow, this is taking up literally maybe like 60% of my time for the business was just like doing the content. So started hiring some writers, and then we got a marketing manager that helps manage a lot of our content. So we've kind of got a lot of things going on now. We've got maybe a handful of writers that'll write that are backpackers. But yeah, I've done a lot of it.
But over the past few years, you've kind of like hired people on. But would
Definitely.
you say you're doing like close to 100% of all of the background of Greenbelly?
The early stuff, I was 100%.
Yeah.
From concept to, it's a whole process getting some of those posts written. So from concept to outline to research to writing to media, whether it's getting images or whatever, I was doing all of that. And then I couldn't scale that. So scaling that involved hiring people. So I'm still involved in every post somehow or another, whether it's helping with the outline, giving insight on some of the stuff they're talking about. But in general, we try to hire writers that, know what they're talking about. So we don't have to use my backpacking knowledge on every single post. But in some way or another, I touch on every post that goes out, but I'm not writing them.
Got it. Yeah. You guys there's so much variety of information on here. How to read trail signs. Do tooth powders really work?
Yeah.
Backpacking with a pee bottle.
Yeah, lots of pee questions. Female urination devices. There are lots of pee questions.
Well, what's the deal with the pee bottle? Is that if you're like by a water source and don't want to pee into the water source?
No, if it's bad weather, there are a lot of reasons that people use pee bottles. If you're in your tent and it's bad weather and you don't want to get out of your tent to pee, you pee in a bottle. It's kind of gross.
Oh, I suppose so.
But yeah, a lot of cases that you would want to use a pee bottle. And it's mainly weather. So if it's snowing outside, if you're wrapped up, I remember like when I was on the AT, I think I finished in December. Yeah, those last maybe month was just snow. And when you like get into your tent, it was just like the idea of getting out of your tent and taking everything off to just go to the bathroom was daunting.
Yeah, it definitely is. I've only done a handful of winter camping, but Yeah, getting out of your tent in the middle of the night is the worst thing ever.
Yeah, I guess the pee bottles are more male focused for sure, but lots of lots of stuff. We try to cover anything and everything we can.
Yeah, pee bottle. I'm gonna have to try that next time I venture out in the winter.
Have you heard of Kula cloth?
Yes, yes.
Have you tried it?
I haven't tried that. No.
Uh,
I sure should though.
Seems like the hot thing for females on the trail.
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, it's reusable and then you don't have trash. So
Totally. I was with I mentioned I went backpacking with my niece and nephew this weekend for the first time, and they had never been backpacking, and the whole bathroom thing was a huge discussion. My niece is just like, "How do you do this? Like, how does this work?" I'm like, "I think you just kind of go over there." And but I was thinking about the cool cloth. It seems to be trying to solve a lot of that.
yeah, because was there like no latrines when you took them out?
No, there weren't. Yeah. No, there
Okay.
weren't. Yeah, no, definitely no latrines or anything.
Okay. Yeah. Sometimes here in Minnesota, when we go out backpacking, like at state parks and stuff, there's like a latrine.
Oh wow, that's nice.
Yeah, but that's just at state parks. So they're like established campsites.
Ah, yeah. Are there shelters there too?
No, there's not shelters. You got to bring your tent
Okay.
or
Well, so
hammock.
I guess maybe established campsites that would make sense, but no, we went somewhere in I'm in Austin right now in Texas, and went to some place that the backcountry camping was just uh like dirt areas with a camper, fire ring.
Okay. Yeah. So what's the weather like right now in Austin?
It's hot, so yeah, we've got October. I'm definitely a warm weather guy, so I'm not complaining. But yeah, so it's very warm. The one thing about Texas though is that elevation. People talk about hill country. I'll be curious to explore some more hill country, but there doesn't seem to be really any any kind of mountain or anything to here. Big Bend, I think, is 7.5 hours. I'm gonna go to Big Bend in maybe January with some friends. But the backpacking, I just got to Austin, so I can't speak too much about the outdoor scene here. But yeah, the backpacking doesn't seem to be like too many options around here. So or there are, it's just not mountain backpacking.
Yeah, more like desert.
Yeah, I drove to New Mexico last month with some friends, and we did some backpacking out there. So it's still, New Mexico is like 9 hours from here to get there. So it's not a place you can just hop into the mountains. Austin's really cool. Just the city itself is cool, but as far as backpacking in the nearby area, I would not give it an A.
Well, maybe you just got to find some locals to show you where the cool spots are.
Right. I will say on the locals have been helpful for rock climbing. I do a decent amount of rock climbing. I'm trying to get into it more. And the rock climbing, there is some stuff like really right in the city that's really cool. So the outdoor rock climbing is really cool here.
Oh, awesome. We just did a podcast with a guy who's a big rock climber in Colorado. You'd probably like listening to that one.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I'm sure the climbing out there is epic.
Yeah, yeah. So what made you recently relocate to Austin? Where were you before that?
I've been pretty nomadic.
Yeah, it seems like it.
Yeah, so even after starting the business, that first year was the longest I'd stayed in one location in a long time. So I was in Georgia at my parents' house getting the business going, and then after that, yeah, we got a kitchen production facility set up in Kentucky to help make the product and fulfill all orders. And since then, I don't know how many countries I've been in since then. Maybe like I don't know, 20. Just living and working online. So I'm fairly location independent now.
But the production warehouse is still in Kentucky?
Still in Kentucky. We've changed spaces, gotten some different space, maybe at least twice. Still in Kentucky, and still with the same people. They've been great. But yeah, I've spent, of the past like 5 years ish, I've spent maybe like 30 or 40% of my time in Thailand, a chunk in Europe, a chunk in South America, a chunk in USA, and a little bit in Canada. Yeah. So anyway, I just got to Austin, and we'll see how long I'll be here. But I love it so far. I know that in general, I want to be spending more time in the States. And I think like being abroad has been fantastic. I love traveling. I love seeing new places. But I knew that my heart is in USA. So, and culturally, I mean, I'm an American. I just see myself being here longer term. So I wanted to find a city in the States that seemed like a good city, and Austin has a lot of cool stuff to offer. And I think I was looking at Denver, Portland, some other cities, but Austin seemed to be. I've got friends and family here.
Yeah, that's what I've heard about Austin. It does seem like one of the big up and coming cities that lots of entrepreneurs seem to be going there lately too.
Totally. Yeah, I came several years ago. I spent a few months here, and there were a lot of entrepreneurs here that I met. And Joe Rogan's here now. A lot of people are leaving. It seems like there's like an exodus from California to move to Austin right now. But I don't know. It's a cool spot.
Well, yeah, California's so overloaded with people and
expensive
forest fires, and it's expensive.
Right. I don't know anything about their taxes or, but I just hear that the bureaucracy there can be a little paralyzing.
Yeah. So what about like with traveling internationally so much, has Greenbelly been sold internationally at all?
No, really. It's just been me internationally. I don't know the numbers, but the vast majority of long distance hikers across the globe are in the United States. So like our market's in the United States. I'm not saying there aren't opportunities abroad. Of course, there are opportunities abroad to sell Greenbelly, but we still don't have a huge chunk of the pie of the backpacking food market in the States. And I think that there's still a lot to focus on in the States. So in general, I have not put focus elsewhere. It's stayed on the States, and it's just been me wanting to see other places and work from my laptop remotely, and then come back to the States when I need to.
Sure. And I mean, yeah, if it's being successful in the States, well, why not just keep it there?
Yeah, logistically, it makes a lot of sense in the States. We've done well in the States. It's just very expensive to ship direct to consumer overseas. The shipping is really expensive. So unless we maybe had like a wholesale distributor, the States is, I think, where we're going to be for a while.
Yeah. Just keep feeding those AT hikers.
Totally.
Did you see a rise or fall with COVID this year with your sales? Like, because there was so many people canceling their AT hikes or just hikes in general. Did that affect sales at all?
I had a mini freak out in, what was that, March? Just because of the unknown, right?
Yeah.
Everybody was, I mean, I guess everybody had a mini freak out.
Yeah.
Or a big freak out, whatever you want to say. But yeah, I mean, obviously the health implications of, what's going to happen. And also just bigger picture, like what's the economy going to do? Like, are people going to have jobs? Is there going to be any purchasing power at all in the country? Like there were so many big implications that thing did and could still potentially affect. So, but yeah, actually that first, when, everything started going bonkers, I think around like late March is really when things started going bonkers here. I had actually just come back from Asia, and I'd been in China right before that. And things were getting crazy over there in January, February.
You were in China like when COVID broke out?
I was in China and Taiwan in October.
Okay.
So I don't think it hadn't broken out then. It had certainly broken out in Thailand when I was in Thailand in January and February. But no matter what, like Asia, I thought it was just going to be kind of an Asia thing, and then I got back to the States in February, and it started to really hit a couple weeks after I got back. But yeah, anyway, so when everything started going crazy, we had one of our best months ever, like right then, because people were stockpiling food. They knew that Greenbelly was like going to be a nutrient dense meal, right? That they could, put away. So
right, a shelf stable meal.
Right. It was very strange. Like our sales went bonkers. I was still worried. I was just like, this is, clearly not good for anybody. And I was like, if you could make the business argument, well, business is good right now. That's good. I was like, well, I don't think it's going to be good for that long because people won't be able to get out of their house. So in general, it's been a very good year, though. I think sales went up big time in the spring, and I think a lot more people have just been getting outside, in general. So I think maybe our customer demographic might have shifted slightly from being these long distance thru hikers to maybe being more of the kind of weekenders that are getting out and ordering. But sales are definitely up from the prior year, which is I'm very thankful for. I know that a lot of people are really suffering right now.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that's kind of what I was thinking. Like there has been, especially here in Minnesota, like we've seen a huge rise in day hikers going out, weekend hikers going out, people who have never been outdoors, people going out due to COVID. That's great that the sales have gone up with those types of people who aren't necessarily familiar with the outdoor community, but somehow discovered Greenbelly.
Yeah, for sure. And it's really hard to gauge. And we've grown pretty substantially every year since we've been in business. And I'll say relative to the other year's growth rates, it's lower, but we're still up a good chunk from the prior year. So it's really hard to gauge. Have we taken a hit from our normal trajectory, or have we benefit? I really have no idea. But we're up this year, so I think in general, like that's really about as much as I've thought about it. To say we're up this year. Company's doing well. Everybody's got a job. Like, let's just be happy with that.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Well, is there anything we haven't talked about that you want to add to our conversation?
I don't know. How's everything up there in Minnesota? Y'all able to get outside, or y'all just so hunkered down with the baby?
Yeah, if you're not a cold person, you probably don't want to come here now because we got our first snowfall yesterday.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, we got about like 4 or 5 inches.
Oh man.
Snow plows were out, and we took our baby out for baby's first snowy walk.
Oh, did you get some pictures?
Yeah, he slept through the whole thing though.
No, Boundary Waters, that's Minnesota, yeah?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, we do love going up there. We've gone up there every year for the past like 4 or 5 years. We take friends up there, and we have a canoe. We bought a canoe a few years ago, so we bring that up, and yeah, it's a beautiful place.
That's definitely, I've got a group of friends from college that we go do a new backpacking destination every year, and Boundary Waters is definitely going to happen, I think, within the next year or two. I'm stoked. I've never been up there. It looks beautiful though.
Yeah, it's awesome. And it's like, yeah, if you like backpacking, you're very likely to fall in love with the Boundary Waters. I mean, it's different because you're canoeing, but you're still portaging. So if you're on a long portage, it's kind of it's a mini version of backpacking, because some of those portages can be like a mile or 2.
Wow.
Yeah, they can get real rough.
Yeah, it looks beautiful though. I would love to get up there.
Yeah, it's great. I know there's been a couple really bad storms. There was a guy up there it was snowing up there a couple weekends ago, and luckily he was rescued because he had a Garmin with him, but it got super cold. I think like 14 degrees and just really brutal weather. And there can be some pretty bad like thunderstorms up there in the summer too.
Yeah.
Luckily, when we've been up there, we've never been caught in anything too terrible. It's an awesome place. So you're gonna come next summer to go there?
I don't think we were actually supposed to go to Alaska this year, and that got canceled because of COVID, and we pivoted to New Mexico. So I went the other last month, or 2 months ago now. But we were talking about going back to Alaska next summer or doing Boundary Waters, but Boundary Waters has been on our list for the past several years, so I know we'll get up there at some point.
Awesome. Yeah, it's well worth going. We also had a person on the podcast, Dave and Amy Freeman. They're a couple that lived in the Boundary Waters for an entire year. Like they did not exit the Boundary Waters. They stayed there for a whole year, and they wrote a book on it. And they're like really big advocates for the Save the Boundary Waters campaign, because there's like mining here, and like people want to come and do mining. And
I saw something on that. I don't know if it was on Netflix, or I feel like I saw a documentary on this. But yeah, it showed a visual map of how much of the protected wilderness has been taken away from mining.
Yeah, a lot of it. So yeah, this couple is like really big advocates for that, and they went to the White House with a canoe. Like they biked to the White House with a whole canoe attached to their bikes to advocate for saving the Boundary Waters.
Very cool. Yeah, I'm looking at their site right now. Very cool.
Yeah. Well, awesome. It's been really great talking to you, Chris.
Yeah, you too, Sarah.
Oh, where can people get in touch with you?
Greenbelly.co, And if you want to email me, my email is chris@greenbellybar.com. Happy to jam out any hiking questions or whatever you got.
Perfect. Hey, if you're curious about Greenbelly, you can go on over to greenbelly.co and use the code HikingThruLife to save 10% off site-wide. That's Hiking Through Life, and that's for 10% off Greenbelly products. Go check them out at greenbelly.co. We've loved doing this podcasting journey. We love bringing awesome guests on. We love seeing that people are listening. And we're really, really grateful that this is hopefully inspiring other people to get outdoors.
Yeah, and as part of our mission at Hiking Through Life, we really want to help support others in continuing their journey or starting their journey into the outdoors. So as part of that, we have plans for future episodes to address some listener feedback. So if you have questions about backpacking, hiking, adventuring outdoors, let us know. Email hikingthroughlife@gmail.com and submit us your question or topic, and we'll possibly address it in a future episode.
You've been listening to the Hiking Through Life podcast. Peace, love, and hike through life.